right. Good evening to those of you on the East Coast. Good afternoon to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thank you so much for joining us wherever you are watching from. As you know, every Saturday, we like to get into what we call This Week in Review, going over the news bits that have made the rounds in entertainment over the course of the week. And as always, I am not alone to talk about some of these topics. So I want to welcome Spillman. How you doing, sir? Happy Saturday. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Brandon. I'm doing good. My basketball team is the number 7 seed, and we're looking like we're going to go to the finals and possibly win. So
Here
I'm
we
doing great.
go. Here we go. Here we go. So, uh, as I said, a lot of stuff to get into, and we're actually going to cover a multitude of things that have happened this week. And actually, it was once again. I know last week we were very trailer heavy, but we have quite a few things to talk about, not just in the world of film, but also in travel as well as sports as well. So let's dive in. You ready? Let's do
I'm
this.
ready. I'm ready.
First and foremost, the first topic that I want to get into is the trailer that dropped for the Marvels, which, as many of you guys know, is the sequel to Captain Marvel. So over the course of this week, we did get the trailer for the Marvels, which gives us a look at a team up between, of course, Captain Marvel, Photon, otherwise known as Monica Rambeau, and of course Miss Marvel, who recently had her series on Disney Plus. It seemed like it brought a lot of elements of, I guess, what you can call Freaky Friday, and that there is a switch that's happening among this trio of characters. Apparently there's something that connects all of them, from what it seems like, that's causing them to switch places. So they're not having, it's not in completely like Freaky Friday in that they are, their essence is going into the other person. They're essentially completely teleporting and switching locations of where they are among this trio. So I know you had a chance to check out the trailer, Spillman. What were your thoughts on what we had?
Well, I think that it's going to be a good movie. I actually like the Ms. Marvel, the new Ms. Marvel character, the Kamala Khan character through the comic books. I like how they did her. She's from Jersey City, so she's a little bit thuggier, so I like that bit from her. I'm happy they're finally bringing Monica Rambeau really back into the fold. She was the captain. She was actually the first lady Captain Marvel. Let's get it real. Let's put some respect on Photon's name. She was the first
Facts,
Captain
facts,
Marvel, but
facts.
they just skipped over
Preach.
that because they gave it to the other Ms. Marvel. But we're not gonna get into that because that's ancient history. They skip over that part. But yeah, Monica Rambeau was the first Ms. Captain Marvel. I like the Captain Marvel movie. I think that there might be a hint of when they look like they're going to be fighting in the end. I bet you that's a scroll. I bet you any amount of money that's a scroll because scrolls and Kree go together, and Captain Marvel got her powers from the Kree. So I'm. This is a spoiler from Spill that I just completely shot from the hip with. That I don't know, but that seems like some scroll things to do. So we're gonna see if it is actually a scroll in the movie. I can't wait to see it. I'm excited for it, but the movie looks good. It looks like they're trying to catch back to their um, the fun loving ways of the movies that Marvel movies do. Like it's more in the vein of a Ragnarok rather than in the vein of like. Winter Soldier or something. So I think that's cool, and I think that just it's kind of hard to do a space movie without some levity because space can get real boring real fast. We've all seen Star Trek movies. Star Trek movies can get real boring real fast, and you get lost in too much sciencey stuff. But if you keep it fun, the people like it. So I'm into it. How do you feel about it?
So here's my thing. I'll be honest, and I know, like, there are mixed emotions about Captain Marvel. I know it made a ton of money. There were a lot of elements of it that I enjoyed. However, there were elements of it that I thought were meh. So,
Hmm.
among like the pantheon of all the Marvel movies that we gotten so far. Uh, I don't put it at that level of, perhaps, let's say Winter Soldier or Endgame or, to be frank, actually, I would say I wouldn't put it at the level of not really Winter Soldier, but Civil War. There are those. I feel like there are those movies that no offense to of Marvel movies that they're at they're tiers, they're level six, so to speak, right? So you have those movies that are at the pinnacle, that are at the top, that I place right here. You have those that are kind of like the mid tier ones. Like if I'm picturing like Iron Man 2 or Iron Man 2 last year. I like the first Iron Man. The first, the second one, and the third, are kind of at that mid tier level, you know, for me. So with that being said, you know, I I was looking forward to see, what this movie would bring, because you have so many different elements with these three characters and what they bring to the table, and kind of that dynamic that I wanted to see of how that will work. And from what I saw, it looks like it's going to be pretty, dynamic and interesting in how those components are going to work together, what they each bring to the table, not only with the power set, but also personality wise, how it's going to work. And with Carol Danvers being, a soldier, it's understandable, which I feel played into the character of the first movie, is that she's not going to have, like, if she's a soldier and we're you know really trying to capture, that idea of being a soldier, she may not have a whole bunch of levity, which I know a lot of people had issues with, going into that first movie, is that they felt that it was far too serious, or that her character's far too serious. But at the same time, if we're picturing, what what who the character was, the reason being is because she was very much, someone who was in the military figure who, they took a lot of things very seriously. So, it's cool to have, that dynamic of someone who's kind of got a couple of years of bringing that dynamic into that trio, and, kind of bring some levity into it. So, she'll likely act as kind of that, if we're picturing how, comedy works, she'll act as that straight person, so to speak. And, Miss Marvel will bring, kind of that screwball or comedy on that end, that's going to be far more, flamboyant and exuberant. And from what a lot of people have been saying, really commented, as being in terms of dynamic, is just that idea that he's kind of going to act as what we've seen with Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and when he first got introduced into the MCU. So that'll be an interesting dynamic. So do you have any other further thoughts before we, carry on into uh Trail of Chemistry?
I just hope that they do good with this. I think it's going to lead to a Kree War. I'm interested in that. But other than that, that's just for my nerdy friends. If you read the books, you know what I'm talking about. So
For
that's what
sure.
we can hope for.
For sure, for sure. All right. So, switching gears into our next story. Also in the world of superheroes, if you will, if you want to, be technical, is we got a look at the series known as The Penguin. So, if you guys recall the film The Batman recently, that iteration that we got, film iteration that we got of of Batman, known as The Batman, we were also it was also shared with us that we would get a spin-off series that would center around one of the villains in his rogues gallery, and that's none other than the Penguin. So over this week, we did get a look at a teaser for that said series, which will be premiering on HBO Max, now known as, of course, no longer HBO Max, now just being known as Max, which will follow our character's exploits, as he rises among, the seedy underworld of Gotham City. And of course, it will be reprised by none other than Colin Farrell, who, did a terrific job in that role. um Spillman, you saw the teaser for this series, this upcoming series for the Penguin, and what were your impressions?
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to remember that I here on Movies and Shakers Unlimited Weekend Review coined the phrase Twilight Batman. And
Oh my
Twilight
gosh.
Penguin is killing it right now.
Gosh.
I'm trying to tell y'all, this Twilight Penguin, he's clearly penguin-like, but not in a comical kind of way. It's like it's a name that I imagine if you called him the penguin to his face, he would kill you for it because don't nobody call him the penguin to his face. To his face, you call him Mr. Cobblepot, but behind his back, everybody be like, look, 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 they go penguin. But again, Twilight Batman don't play. Twilight Penguin don't play. So I'm all on board with this Twilight Penguin show because I know people like that Gotham show. Was it Gotham? The one where it was the prequel. I thought it was goofy. I didn't like the prequel because
Yeah, it was
I don't
Gotham.
want to watch no show. I don't want to watch no show about Batman. Don't got no daggone Batman in it. So I hope we see Twilight Batman in this show. That will make me happy. And it's not like it's going to be a prequel where we just get to look at young Batman in school doing little boy things and stuff. I don't want to see any of that. I want to see Batman punching people in the face and showing up and doing Batman things. So I'm really excited for this Twilight Penguin. It looks good. The filmography looks good. I'm just excited for it. How do you feel about Twilight Penguin?
Twilight Penguin, Twilight Penguin,
That's right.
Twilight Batman aside.
That's right.
What I've seen has been, quite intriguing of what they had to show. I'll be honest, on paper, I was a little skeptical of just that idea of, okay, we're gonna. I did, and I think we talked about this last week. Is I'm not a big fan of. I understand why you do it, but I'm not a big fan of kind of counting your chickens before they're hatched. And if I recall, like this series was, while we were still in the midst of getting the Batman, it was announced that we want to be getting this series as well. And I was like, can we get the movie first? Can we see if the movie's any good before we decide that we're going to actually do a whole series on this? Like, haven't we
You was
been down
worried
this
about
road?
Twilight Batman. Just say you was worried about
I was
Twilight
like,
Batman.
are we
Just
going
say
to? Haven't we been down this road before where we've tried
yeah.
to already create a universe? But granted, with all that in mind, what I saw, it still has that same aesthetic as the Batman, which I enjoyed. And you still have the same, team, same group of folks, creatives that are behind the show. And of course, you still have, the actor who embodied that role. Because, like, I'll be honest, like, I was completely shocked of what, Colin Farrell was able to do. Like, he really like disappeared into that role, unless you really explicitly knew that it was Colin
You got
Farrell.
Squint.
Yeah. Yeah, and
That's
that's
him.
a test. Then that I mean, that's a testament to his talent, and what they also did with the prosthetics, with the makeup, because there's unless you really know, unless you're like really gung ho and really fine tuned to like the mannerisms of certain actors, then it's hard to know that the character there, or the actor there, is in fact Colin Farrell playing that character. So I'm definitely interested to see what they do with it. My only issue is this, and then this is a problem that I have whenever we have any type of series that centers around a villain, is that you run the danger of the audience falling in love with that villain. And because of that, I feel like it can limit you on what can happen with that character, because the studio may be afraid of what they can do with the character based off of how much audiences like that character. I don't know if that's making any sense at all, but
That
like
makes sense. That makes
if they want
sense.
to kill
But
off the
people love
character, but
villains.
I'm saying if they want to kill off the character, or if they want this character to do like this really despicable thing, I feel like because of this series that there's going to be a temptation to make him kind of like an anti-hero versus just making him a straight up villain. And that it may limit, their capacity on how they want to utilize that character going forward in the future, if they run the risk of audiences really enjoying that character and studio being afraid of what they do with that character because of them trying to make sure that they don't want to alienate their audience. So Do you have any additional thoughts before we head into our next story, which I really want to dive in? I have thoughts, but go ahead.
I think that the Twilight Penguin is good. They got a
Again,
great actor
Twilight.
playing him. It's Twilight Batman. This is the Twilight Batman universe for me. That's what I'm gonna call it from here on out. Because it's Edward. Edward is Batman. Batman is Edward. It's the same guy. But I know that's silly, but the way that they've done it has the way that they've done these the Batman movie and how this looks so far. It looks like it's real, like it takes place in the real world, but it has that element of fantasy to it, like the scene in the movie where Batman puts on the Bat Vision like contact lenses to do his Batman detective stuff. That looked like he was the greatest detective in the world. That looked like Batman type stuff. It was futuristic. It looked real. So I'm just excited for it, and hopefully we get some Twilight Batman cameos, and he just starts walking up because he didn't run. So it's good.
For sure, for sure, for sure. So, switching gears, going into, and this is a little new for us, but getting into some travel news. And I thought this was interesting. And this is going into information regarding Air New Zealand. Apparently, they will soon be offering bunk beds on their planes. So, according to the story, for those that are in from what I understand, business class, or and I'll confirm that. But they even for let's just say for the seats that are not first class, they will be offering bunk beds to their customers. So you hear this Spillman, and what are your thoughts, sir?
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a giant human being. Nothing about this bunk bed on this plane sounds attractive to me. I have the luxury and the privilege that every time I fly, the desk agent talks to me like I am her own natural child. And she be like, baby, we can't have you in that regular seat. We gotta get you in the exit row. And I'll be like, ma'am, would you be so kind as to do that for me? And you know what they do? They upgrade your boy for free. So I've flown down there to that part of that world. I've flown to Australia in 2019. That's a long flight. So I understand why they're trying to sell these bunk beds, because you and your friend could be on bunk beds, but it's a long enough flight that you would sleep on the plane. I understand that. That makes total sense. But personally, it makes no sense because I don't want no tiny bunk bed to sleep on. I haven't slept on a bunk bed since I was 12 years old. I got too big for the bunk bed, and I got a real person's bed. So I don't want no parts of this. I don't want no parts of no twin bed, no full bed. Honestly, I don't want parts of a queen size bed. If I get in a queen size bed, I gotta sleep diagonal. That's not comfortable. So no, it's a no for me. But I understand where they're going with this because New Zealand is on the other part of the world. It's like literally the other part of the world from here. So it's a long flight. You will be over water so long, you'll start to question yourself like, am I going to fall into the ocean? That's what you ask yourself when you're on that flight. So maybe if you're on a bunk bed, you go to sleep. So yeah.
Nah, no, I hear you. I guess for those instances in which uh in which we're talking about this particular circumstance, I understand the need for it, based off just as you said, it's a long flight. And from what they have discussed, and then they have this actually is a story, just to give you guys give you some backgrounds. It's originally out of sent or dropped out from the Washington Post, and they were talking about this story. And it will, as I said, it will debut in September of next year. So we're still a little over a year away. But according to this article in the Washington Post, it was born from what the airline has done research on, uh, based on born out of their research of telling them that sleep was core to the customer experience.
Oh, for sure.
Apparently they have done this before. They've kind of they've done it to a degree before, according to the story, back in 2010, They allowed economy passengers. So yes, as I said, this is for economy passengers. But before this gets, put out for next year, back in 2010, they had debuted what they called the Sky Couch, which allows economy passengers to book 3 adjacent seats that can be converted into a lie flat experience. Now,
That's a
according
money grab
to
if ever I've heard one.
it is, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. And to kind of to your point, you were talking about as I said, guys, I know you guys can't see this right now, but Spillman is not like a small dude, as I mentioned before. He's a pretty big dude. And so they were talking about what the measurements were for the betting here. And they said that the pods are measured at 6 feet 7 inches. So you would just barely fit in there, Spillman. And
that's that's still that might
they're
work.
2 feet
That might
wide.
work.
They're 2 feet wide.
2 feet
But
wide.
but
Yeah,
here's the thing. Here's my thing with that though, is we're thinking of the best scenario, right? When we're on our flights.
yeah,
And on flights, I've been on flights where there's been turbulence, and if you're on a flight that long, there can be turbulence. So
definitely.
apparently, there's, if we can't see it here, but in this photo, let me see if I can turn both of us off. But in the photo there in the middle, there's supposed to be kind of like a steps there for you to get to each of the 3 levels, because there's supposed to be 6 to kind of, I guess, a set for these bunk beds. And so my thought is this: like, do you guys have like seat belts or like something that's going to hold people in place? Because this looks like I mean, maybe I'm just not picturing it right, but it looks like a lawsuit waiting to happen. Because if someone is not on like the main bunk that's on the ground level, that second tier and that third tier, you're just begging for people to fall out of those bunk beds. And I'm not even just talking about with not just with turbulence. I mean, if
People
people have
roll.
sleep, yeah, people roll, they may have some type of sleeping disorder, like anything along those lines, and there's
It's
nothing
kind
there
of
to,
terrifying flying
yeah,
that far. It's
there's
terrifying. So you
there's
might
there's
bug
nothing
out.
that's holding people there. If we're looking at this, there's nothing that's holding people there to ensure their safety. So that would be my question. I
Uh-huh. Yeah, so I just think that again, these bunk beds are crazy, ladies and gentlemen. I love the idea. We all, I have a little brother. Brandon doesn't know about his little brother life. So, I was on the big top bunk because that's what big brothers do. We be on the top bunk. So I just know that we just the bunk bed. I understand what they're doing. New Zealand is very far away. Like if you think of the longest flight you've ever been on, most people they go to like Los Angeles. That's a 6 hour flight, maybe. Imagine that times like 3. That's how long it is to go to New Zealand. And you probably did a layover before you got on the long flight. So you're flying all over the world. I understand why New Zealand is doing this because they need people to come there. They have a beautiful place. They shot all the Lord of the Rings movies there. The tech billionaires are moving there because they assume that if the world went bad, they're going to move there because it's an island and it's nice already. So they say, we have our food and, we'll just continue to do what we need to do. And that's fine. But I just know that the bunk beds work, but it's a long, long, long flight to fly from here to New Zealand.
And I
To
don't know
fly
if you
from
caught
anywhere to
that.
New
You
Zealand.
froze there for a second, but I don't know if you caught the tail end of what I was talking about there, of just that idea of, there's so many circumstances that can happen that could
For
go
sure.
wrong. And
Yeah,
maybe they have you signing away some type of liability to keep them, to make sure that they're not liable if something
probably.
happens to you, because
Probably.
that's the only thing that I can see how that would make sense.
That's what
So
I would do.
that's the only thing. So, did you have any other, final impressions before we hop into our, next topic?
No, no, not at all. We
Because
can go on to this
I know
next
we
one.
need to get into this one too, man. Especially you just
That's
talked
one of one.
about your Lakers. So let's
That's
talk
right,
a little
ladies
bit
and
of
gentlemen. It's
sports.
playoffs.
Let's talk a little sports.
Playoffs.
So
Yeah.
this week, we had a CJ McCullough. He was in a press conference, and he was commenting on how the season had been going. If you guys don't know, he plays for the Pelicans, and he's been paired up with Zion Williamson, who unfortunately has been out. So um, you know, in some comments that he, made recently, it gave the impression that, maybe he's calling out Williamson for his lack of availability. So Spillman, what are your impressions of what he said? And I'm actually going to pull it up too, so that way you guys are able to, see, what that was. But what are your thoughts of, the impressions, or say the comments that he, had to say that seemed kind of veiled and kind of, you know, um, uh, uh, it wasn't directed at anybody, but one can put two and two together and say that it was about Zion Williamson.
To me, I think that, although I don't like when people be chatty patties in the media, although we love it for this kind of thing because, we wouldn't have nothing to talk about if they weren't being chatty patties. But, to me, if I saw a dude doing like windmill dunks and warm ups and then went and sat down and watched the game, I'd be like, why he ain't out here if he could be out there doing windmill dunks? If you can windmill dunk, can't you play basketball? Allegedly, I feel like I understand you got to play for yourself and everything, but this is a team sport at the end of the day. I'm sure CJ McCollum is nursing injuries. He's been playing through all of this. He's been trying to be a leader in that locker room, and also he has a platform to promote. So I would take a grain of salt with this because he does have that podcast on ESPN because he's looking for he's nearing the end of his career. So I understand if Zion takes, a kind of talking to about it, but I don't think Zion's going to stay in New Orleans much longer. But I just think that if you can do a windmill dunk and do all that stuff in pregame, you should be playing. Especially if we're trying to make the playoffs, we need every bucket we can get. And I think they got bounced. Didn't they get bounced? If I believe that they got
Yes, they
bounced because
did.
they lost
Yes,
that
they
game.
did.
Yeah, because
Uh-huh.
this was that press conference was
That
after
was
they
it.
got bounced.
Exactly. Yep.
So, I would be pissed because you play to win the game. That's what you play for. I've
And I
played
mean, he
sports a
had
long
he
time.
had
I
injuries
know you have.
himself. I would give props to that. I mean, he was completely healthy himself, but a lot of times you want to. I mean, we both play basketball, right?
Yeah,
There've been times where we've had injuries. I mean, and we've played through it. I mean, it's not to say
yeah,
that that there aren't injuries that are that will prevent you that can't be a hindrance, in you being able to play to your best of your ability, but sometimes, you have those small injuries that still give you the capability to at least be 80% or 75%. And even that, with a lot of these players, especially with Zion Williamson, that's enough to win you a game. So,
enough to win a game. And you just need a couple of buckets. Sometimes it's just the fear. Like famously, Willis Reed shouldn't have played Game 6 of the NBA Finals, but he came out played Game 6 and hit the first two buckets. Even though the man couldn't walk, he hit the first two buckets. After they seen him hit the first two buckets, the energy was in the stadium. Everybody was happy. The team was like, now we got to go win it for him because team sports especially, it's about the unit. It's not about the individual. That's why a lot of these teams have been broken up recently with certain shenanigans by certain players not trying to get on that same page. And if you're not on the same page, you can't win no championship. If we argue in the locker room and stuff, or we can't agree on how we're going to attack defenses and stuff, we can't win like that. That's just how sports go. You cannot win just rolling out like they always say the analytics work. He hits 40% of his shots. He hits 50% of his shots. If we put them together, we won't miss no shots. But that aggregate comes out in the worst times somehow, just like if you're gambling. So you got to go with what actually works. So I feel for CJ. I understand what he's going through, but you got to play the games. If you want to be a great, that's what we measure all greats on. Allen Iverson famously played basically his whole body in bandages. Kobe played through injuries.
yeah.
Shaq plays through injuries. Michael Jordan played through injuries.
Yeah.
LeBron plays through injuries. LeBron
Yes.
said he should have been in surgery right now, but they in the playoffs right now,
Right.
and we respect him more for that. So you gotta show up when they ask you to show up. They paying you millions of dollars to wear
Millions.
odd outfits. They pay millions to get odd outfits. The least you could do is play the games.
No,
So
I hear you. And I mean, just to go into that, that idea is that, just like you said, again, like I mean, I don't know what Zion is going through. None of us do. And as I said, there are those injuries that are so severe that if it completely, not only is it not beneficial to play in a game, but if it's a detriment to the team where it limits, how you're able to be, effective for your team, that's understandable. But again, like you said, if it's situations that demonstrate that you have quite a bit of mobility, and it's still a matter of, are you injured, or how severe is the injury, then yeah, like just to go into those comments, I was able to pull it up, where he basically said, is the quote, McCullough, in talking about the just the team overall, and not, as I said, likely directed at Zion, but he doesn't explicitly say Zion. Is he says availability is important, man. We got to be available. We got to do what we need to do off the court in terms of preparation, in terms of getting treatment, in terms of getting the right sleep, the right type of hydration, having the right type of diet. So many things play into that. And I mean, Zion is still in the early part of his career. So, those are things that, as a player, when you're a younger player, I understand that, you still have to kind of find your way through and figure out all these things that maybe when I was, when I was a teenager, that, perhaps I had a part of my diet, McDonald's and all these, Burger King and all these fast food places. I may have to change up my diet. If you're playing 80 plus games in a season, that's a lot of wear and tear in your body. So, you're going to have to be able to be prepared. Your body has to be ready. And you have to be eating the right things to make sure that your body is functioning at the maximum level if you're playing that many games. And of course, guys, we're not even talking about like the postseason. This is just the regular season. Like
it's
80
just
plus
regular
games, just
season.
a regular season. So if you're talking about postseason, we're likely saying what, 16 plus games, 16, 20 plus games. So we're talking about over 100 games, because you're playing through what? You're playing through 4 series. You have your first
4
round.
series to 7. That's 28 extra games. That's
It's
110
crazy. Like I said,
or
well over 100
120
games.
extra games. Well over
I'm
100
I'm
games,
just keeping it in
possibly.
mind if we have like sweeps or things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, worst case scenario, you're talking about, like you said, 28 plus games. So, with that in mind, that you're going to have to put in the necessary work to ensure that your body is ready to go. And like I said, even under those best circumstances, there's still a possibility of you being injured. So why not put yourself in the best position possible to ensure that that doesn't happen? So I know a lot of people have been commenting. I know you commented. We were talking about it off stage, and you were talking about how CJ McCullough, he didn't have the best game. So I know a lot of people were commenting on, he can't make excuses, but at the same time too, there's no way of knowing how the game would have played out had they had a Zion in the game. Maybe that might have changed the whole, just as you were talking about with those examples, it might have changed the whole dynamic of the game. And
The
maybe
whole dynamic.
in terms of how it played out, he may not have, CJ, not to say that he's not, a good player, he is, but he may not have felt the need to do as much or play outside of himself if, all the pieces that they have for that team in order to win were there. So those are my final thoughts, and I'll get off my soapbox. But do you have any additional thoughts, man?
I just think the Pelicans should be smart about this, and they should stop letting him be on camera, like at warm ups before playoff games and stuff, looking like he could play basketball, and then going and putting his clothes back on and sitting behind the bench. Like, people get on Anthony Davis all the time, calling street clothes and all that. He's playing right now. But I understand if you see somebody in their regular clothes all the time, looking like they paid $35,000 for courtside seats, when in reality they're supposed to be playing, nobody likes to see that. So they just need to focus on making sure if he's going to be doing those kind of practice things, he needs to do it at the practice facility away from cameras. Don't be having the NBA TV people
And
because
stop
it looks
posting
crazy.
stuff. And stop
It
posting
looks
stuff of you
crazy. It
playing
looks
because
crazy.
you
It
make the
looks crazy.
point. But I'm saying you make the point of him being somewhere else other than the game. If you're still posting yourself doing these dunks at the facility, that's the same thing. So like, why? Why? So
Wow.
why? All right. Uh enough of our ranting. But moving on from one sports story to another sports story, and this is close to home here in DC with our Washington Commandos. We
Oh,
are close, so close to having a new owner, and I actually put it as a question mark because there are a lot of pieces
that
to
other
this
dude don't
story.
have that money. He don't have the money.
There are a lot of
He
pieces,
said, "I'm
like
gonna
I
give you the
said.
billion on the first
Let
day. Then I'm
right.
gonna
Let me
show."
get to that. Let me get to that. So there are a lot of pieces to this story. So that the reason why I put owner and owners is because at one point we understood that we had a group that would be, buying the commandos for $6 billion. However, recently we got the, word that there is another player in the game, so to speak, that is trying, just as Spillman said, is trying to beat that bid, because it's not, it hasn't been, finalized yet. It's still in the process of being done. So, and it's not exclusive. That was a point that was made. It's not an exclusive thing. So other bidders can come in, and this guy, and I'll pull it up in a moment. We have another player, in the game, so to speak, that is bidding for $7 billion. And just as Spillman said, according to what he was planning on doing, is that within 24 hours, he was going to pay $1 billion. And then within the week, we'll play the remaining balance of $6 billion. So it sounds like you have a lot of thoughts on this, Spillman, but I will punt it over to you, and then, I'll share my thoughts.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Here we go.
do you remember that scene at the beginning of The Wizard of Oz when she came down in the house and then everybody came outside and was so happy she came down in the house on top of that lady? This is what that feels like to me. Y'all don't know the struggles that have gone through my life. I've had girlfriends of mine ask me, "Why you like watching that terrible team?" And I'd be like, "Well, it's my team. I love them, and I don't want to give up on them. Would you want me to give up on you if you were terrible?" And they say yes, and I'd be like, "Well, that's different." And then I have to explain all of that. But it's been years of crazy stuff. Just like one time, the old owner banned a church from using their own parking lot. How you ban a church? Like, he's done crazy things. He stopped people from walking, like doing certain things. Like, it's just been so much crazy stuff. I can't even put in my mind. Yes, Ray Williams in the comments just said he's trying to put the ownership on his PayPal. He's trying to do a payment plan on an NFL team. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. He's trying to put the payment plan. Thank you, Ray. This is amazing. But I'm just so happy. It's been years. All of my friends used to be football team / Commanders fans, and they've slowly gotten off the narcotic because it's just been too much foolishness. The owner is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. He was exploiting the cheerleaders. He's exploited the players. He's paid people that were older than I am, and I'm 38, millions of dollars. He didn't want to pay players that were, you could argue about Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins hasn't had a bad season since he's left here. We should have just kept that guy. We'd had a quarterback this whole time. We've had every single quarterback you could possibly name that's terrible in the NFL that might have had a snap or two has played for our team. It's been crazy. He's trying to put the ownership on his PayPal. That's crazy. But it's just more shenanigans. They haven't been able to move from that crazy stadium that has poop and stuff falling on people, that they put tarps on everything. That was a 90,000 seat stadium, and they only got 60,000. How much money do you lose a game when you're supposed to be making 30,000 more people worth of tickets? That's crazy to me. So all of this is crazy. We remember, I'm old enough to remember the last Super Bowl. It's the only Super Bowl I remember in this city. It's one of the most important sports things that's happened here. And it's been so long ago that, you know, the people that were alive then are grandparents now. So the children that were alive then, not like, people's parents or grandparents. I mean, people my age are grandparents now. So they've had two generations of just terrible management by this team since the last Super Bowl. We've squandered number one draft picks. We've run people out of town, charging for will call envelopes. Look at this kind of shenanigans. Ray, you're on a roll right now.
Yeah, man, you on a roll.
On a roll. This is just crazy, the stuff that's happened with this football team. He told one of the players he tried to tell one of the players he didn't have cancer. Imagine that somebody has cancer, and for your own personal goals of money and stuff, try to tell them, no, you don't have cancer. Don't worry about that. It's just a bump. It's not cancer. You'll be okay. It's just, I'm happy to see him go. All the plans they made, they put that practice facility out there, Loudoun County. I like Loudoun County. It's a great place. But no one who wants to move to D.C. wants to live in Loudoun County and be in Loudoun County.
No one wants to travel out to Loudoun County. I'm just letting you know.
Nobody wants to do that.
Loudoun County is wonderful. Don't get me wrong. I've been out in Loudoun County.
22 years old. We talk about 22, 25-year-olds. 25. When's the last time you heard a 25-year-old being like, yo, it's popping in Loudoun. We get it in out there, big dog. They don't never say that. They don't never say that. So hopefully this new ownership, I pray it's magic in them because, Lakers know how to win. Lakers know how to win. Magic knows how to win. He got the Dodgers back winning, even though he hadn't won in like 30, 40 years. It's been a long time.
I know you're commenting on Magic, but just for those that are like keeping up and keeping track, originally, as I said, for that $7 billion deal that included Harris, who is a co-owner of the Philadelphia 76ers.
Harris is the Magic people. The $7 billion is some guy named like Brian Davis or something. He's like a crazy person. I don't know who that guy actually is. I've never heard of him.
Well, okay. So yeah, a little background history. So, in talking about the $6 billion, as I said, Harris, who is co-owner of the Philadelphia 76ers and is joined by Maryland philanthropist Mitchell Rales, and as you said, Magic Johnson, they're putting together the bid for $6 billion. However, Brian Davis, who, if any of you guys don't know, he apparently is a former Duke University basketball player. He won, in that time that he attended.
He don't have $1 billion.
In that time that he attended Duke University, he actually went on to play for the Timberwolves. Actually, according to the story that the news story that we have here and this is shout out to WUSA 9, the story that they did.
Yeah.
He actually played for the Minnesota Timberwolves for 93 to 94, so one season, and he's an owner of Urban Echo Energy LLC. So it's a lead certified developer of renewable energy assets.
Why are we talking about this guy? He doesn't have $1 billion.
Hold on. He's local to here. He's local to here. And there is something. Here's the thing.
I got $1 billion then. If he got it, I got it.
But I'm saying, here's the thing. There is something to be said about being a Black owner. So, while at the same, we're making all these jokes about does he have the $7 billion? Does he not have the $7 billion?
He does not.
Either circumstance, it would be cool if he in fact has the $7 billion, more power to him, because it would be cool to say that we have a Black owner. So, do you have any, additional, thoughts? I know you kind of like spilled, so to speak. You spilled all of your thoughts on it, but did you have any other final impressions?
I was driving. I just want the people to know. I know this is super local. I was driving up 50 yesterday to pick up my son from daycare, and I saw a sign on the road. Somebody took a big sign and just said, "Buy Dan." They are selling Buy Dan beer everywhere. People are doing drink specials. They're saying, come back from football season. It's finally over. We got the guy out of there. I just feel like when I found out, the first person I called was my father. I called my brother. Everybody was calling each other. All my friends that used to be football team fans, we called each other. We got a group chat together so that we could start going to football games again. So, the joy of fall has returned to the men of this region. We have been downtrodden. People have been making fun of us. We're going to be better than the Cowboys now. Finally. Finally, we're going to be better than the Cowboys. And they have been terrible. Can you imagine? The Cowboys have been bad since 1995, and we have not been any better. We've been even worse than them. They laugh at us. One time, Michael Vick came in here and scored 3 touchdowns in 2 minutes. It was terrible. I just don't get me started, man. It hurts. It hurts so bad.
Man.
I'm so happy that he's gone.
Oh man, hilarious. All right. So as I said, we're going to run the gamut today. We talked a little bit about travel. We talked a little bit about sports, and we're going to get back into a film, especially with superheroes. I know we started off the show and talking about 2 of those stories, and we have 2 other stories that are in that realm as well. So this week, and there hasn't been a whole lot that's been coming out of this film, so I thought that it would be interesting to talk about this. Is we learned this week that there has been addition that has been made to the upcoming, Blade film, and actress Mia Goth, who many people may know from the horror movie Pearl or X, among many other films, will be joining the film. And this is according to Deadline. There hasn't been any information of who specifically she's been playing. There's been some rumors out there of who it might be. Perhaps she might be playing, Lilith, whether it is, the demon, or perhaps the daughter of Dracula. But as I said, it hasn't been confirmed. But still, just the prospect of having her join this film, if you have seen her in other films, is quite exciting. I don't know if you've seen other films that she's been a part of filming, but what are your thoughts on Miss Goth joining the MCU's Blade film?
So with Goth, it's a complete mystery to me. I've never seen any of her work. I'm really confused on who she's going to portray because I don't remember a blonde from the Blade canon. I don't remember her like a character like her. I was imagining she might be Black Cat, or because Felicia Hardy has a connection with Morbius, but I'm not even sure Morbius is even going to be in this movie. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure he's not.
I'd bet dollars to donuts because that Jared Leto, they keep letting him make these comic book movies, and he keep being bad characters in them. I know you try to cake for him for that little thing they added on that they cut originally but added back on, but whatever. I'm interested in what they're going to do with this Blade film because the Blade films are very important to the I think this is why they take so long to reintroduce this character, is because the Blade films were so important to Marvel even getting movies to launch and really saving Marvel Comics in general. So I think that they're trying to take their time to make sure they do them right. The original 3 were killer. They were blockbusters. I think they did so good. The taxman started looking for Wesley. Be like, Wesley, you owe us some money. We know you're making money. Where our money at? So I'm really interested to see what they do with it. I think that they can really make some strides. So I'm excited for them. I'm sure you're
Now I'm going to pull it
excited.
up for you. I'm going to
I
share
saw
it. So
her.
let me see if I can share it up here now. Yeah. So it's from
she was in Pearl.
IMDb, but yeah, she played in X, if anyone saw it. Yes.
See, this person looks familiar here. I think I've seen this movie.
But no, as I said, yeah. So I mean, as I said, it's the prospect of having her be in this film is really exciting because she plays very, unstable type of characters. I hate to say it, I feel like she's been typecast recently because she's so good at playing these characters, but the characters that she has played have been so, I guess you can say, even though they have been villainous characters in many ways, she still brings something to those roles that you just can't it's hard to look away because she is so charismatic and so in terms of what she brings to the table as an actress. And so the prospect of her being a vampire, I'm down. So we'll see who she ends up playing, as I said, there have been rumors going out there that perhaps she's playing Lilith. And anyone out there who knows their comic books, they know
Yeah.
we have two Liliths. We have the demon, the mother of all demons, Lilith, and then we also have the vampire Lilith, who is the daughter of Dracula. So a lot of times with a lot of our characters, there is a tendency for Marvel to kind of mishmash a lot of components of their characters. So, like, give me an example, guys. If we're picturing like Thor Ragnarok with God, who's the villain in that? I'm brain farting right now. The villain from Hela. So, like, there were a lot of components in Hela that they borrowed from a lot of different storylines. Like, I feel like not only that they borrowed stuff with Hela, but they also borrowed stuff with, I want to say the character's name is Angela. I'll look it up, but there's a long lost daughter, if I recall.
Enchantress, yeah,
No, but
yeah.
I'm saying there's a long lost daughter of, if I recall, of a long lost sister
Odin.
of Thor, who
Yeah,
comes back into the fold, and she's actually a good guy. She's not a villain, if I recall, but it feels like they borrow elements of not just that long lost sister, but also of Hela and other characters to merge into making that character, interesting. So maybe they'll
yeah.
merge it together, because there is a prospect of us getting a Midnight Suns film, which would be really exciting. I hope we get that because we have all the players in play. I mean, we have Moon Knight, we have Doctor Strange, we have all of these characters in here that could basically function as members of the Midnight Suns. So, did you have any thoughts before we continue?
I just hope
I
that
agree,
Marsha
right? Yeah,
Ali
she is
really
very good in
shows
Pearl.
his butt. Yeah, she's good, and I just hope that Marsha Ali is ready for this blade work. Because if he don't match up, he's gonna set
Yeah,
dark skinned dudes
Mahershala.
back. He's gonna set y'all back, man. He's gonna set y'all back
Well, to his
because
credit,
Wesley had y'all all the way out there,
but I'm
but
saying
because
to
he
his
got the
credit, to his
he's a
credit,
great actor.
to his credit, he has been playing a role in ensuring that the script is right. From what I understand, there have been prior stories of them, going with a draft of the script, and he wasn't satisfied with it. He didn't think that it was up to snuff of what Blade should be. So, from what I understand, he is heavily, trying to ensure the quality. And I mean, he has a lot of stake for himself too. To following up, a beloved franchise. People sleep on Blade all the time, and it always irritates me because, like, whenever we're talking about superhero films, people always say, X-Men or Spider-Man started the superhero craze. No, and I've talked about this many times. We had Blade before we had X-Men, before we had Spider-Man. And people keep acting like it's like the bastard child of like Marvel, but you can't
They tried to say
deny.
Black Panther was the first Marvel black superhero movie.
Exactly. I'm like,
It's like,
no,
come on,
bro.
bro.
It was Blade. So, and don't get
Come
me
on,
wrong, I
bro.
love Black Panther, and it's an important part of cinema and all of that. But let's call it spade to spade. And if we really want to get technical, it wasn't even Blade. If we
It
really
was
want to
it
get
was Meteor
technical,
Man.
it
We
was
know, we
Meteor
know,
Man. So
we
there
know
you
Meteor
go.
Man.
Okay. All right. Good. I'm glad we on the same page with that. So,
I mean,
um,
Golden Lords.
oh man, oh man, holds a special place. Anyone who hasn't seen
That's
Meteor
right.
Man, and it takes place in DC. There you go. So it takes place
That's right.
takes place in our home city. But all right. Any last impressions before we move on to our very last story today or
No, let's
tonight?
get it.
All right.
Let's get
So
it.
you guys probably saw it. You saw it in the title of today's show. It is our main story that we're going to be talking about. So I'm going to take down our photos here. You guys can see it in the background. And that's none other than the news about Deadpool that we will have Bakarin as well as, and I apologize for butchering your name, man, but Kapikik joining Deadpool 3. If you guys aren't familiar with those actors, they both play Vanessa as well as Colossus, respectively, in the other installments of the Deadpool franchise. So they will be making a return as OGs of the franchise. Now, as you guys already know, we already have the addition of Hugh Jackman joining that film with Deadpool. And there's going to be a component of the multiverse happening where they are going to be, basically traveling the multiverse as kind of, I guess you could say, kind of like a buddy movie. But the prospect of having some of these OGs return, what are your impressions? What are your feelings about it, Spills?
I'm really excited for it. I like what they did with Colossus in the Deadpool movies. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't like they made him into a strong guy, but they made him into a guy that was obviously like, come on, man, please, Deadpool, don't hurt yourself on me, man. Like you can hurt yourself, and I know you got the growing back powers, but it still looks gross when you break your hand on my face, literally. Like they made Colossus act like how Steven Adams acts in the NBA. Like, dude, you're not stronger than me. You're not gonna beat me up. I'm gonna pick you up and move you if I need to. I'm bigger than you. Please stop. Don't act like that. Like I got a gold tooth. I don't play around. I'm from New Zealand. I gotta fly. That's right, Blank Man. Blank Man was in there. Thank you, Ray. We did have Blank Man. But I like both the characters. The Deadpool movie is looking very exciting. It's looking more and more like they're going to bring these actors over into the next generation, into this MCU, which they should do because that's what people want to see. We don't want to see no new Wolverine to look all weird. They're probably going to use the younger actors. That's probably why they did the younger actors for Days of Our Future Past and the First Class whole thing. So they could keep those actors on as Jean Grey and Scott Summers and all that. Because that would work better. Because Wolverine's supposed to be older than them anyway. That's how it worked in the comic books. Wolverine was like 40 when he showed up to the X-Men, and they were like children. It was like, who's this old dude trying to back on my girl? And that made a different element of like weirdness to it. All the internet people I follow really play up that throuple stuff, but I'm not getting into that on this podcast because that's not what we're here to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. We're not talking
Right,
about the throuples.
right,
That's
right. Another
not
show,
that'll get us
another show, another
deplatformed. That's a
show,
different show.
another show,
That'll
another
be
show.
After dark with Spill. When we come out with that show, it'll be After
Wow.
Dark with
Okay.
Spill. We'll
Okay.
talk about
Hey.
that after
Hey.
dark.
Okay. After dark.
After
Okay.
dark. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
I'll put
Like
on some
BET. Like
incense.
BET. Right.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like some sage, but yeah. So no, I'm just excited for it. The first two Deadpool movies were fun. My son thinks he could watch them. He's 3 years old. He's not going to watch them, but he sees them. Everybody loves Deadpool. It's a fun thing. So I'm excited for it. I like Colossus. He's a great character. So yeah,
And I mean,
I'm
we have,
into it.
and I didn't even announce bring this up. And this is again a story out of Deadline. Is that there are other, additions? I know, most recently, we have Colossus and Vanessa, returning, but we have some other OGs, coming back as well. So, we have Dupender as well as Blonde Al coming back. So from Karen Sony as well as Leslie Uggams. So, two other OGs who have, made their mark in that franchise are also returning too. So it'll be cool to see, the whole gang back, the whole band, so to speak. And then to see how, Wolverine is going to fit into that mix. Just like you were saying, it's going to be interesting or cool to see everything come full circle, with what's come before in other franchises outside the MCU and them weaving it into what they currently have in the MCU. Because let's be honest, that's what Secret Wars is going to allow them to do. This whole multiverse thing is going to give them that luxury of being able to bring all of these other components in there that shouldn't be in there, but they'll be able to weave in and just explain it away as just being multiverse. So it'll be nice to see that, and let's be honest, that'll probably be the only way that they'll be able to kind of top the portal scene that we had, prior in Endgame, to see all those people in one space at one time. So no, I'm definitely, excited for it. We'll see what happens with it because I'm hoping, fingers crossed, now that we're getting Hugh Jackman back, that we'll have an opportunity to have Jackman in the classic Wolverine uniform. So I know they
Yeah,
kind of
that'd be
teased it.
awesome.
If anyone saw the Wolverine, they did have a deleted scene. You guys can look it up online where they actually showed him receiving that costume, but he never wore it at any point in the prior X-Men movies. So hopefully this go around, fingers crossed, that we'll get him in the classic uniform. That'd be cool. So any final impressions before we wrap up tonight?
No, ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to know that Brandon talked all this mess when I got on this podcast, and I told y'all, I said the Lakers gonna make the playoffs. He's like, "Well, LeBron is hurt, and
I just want
LeBron
to
ain't
say my
going.
team is in there too.
He
The
going
Warriors are still in there,
conveniently.
so
He going conveniently just be hurt, and then
give
he's
it
gonna
time.
blame him being hurt on us. No, y'all not making the playoffs,
Give it
and they
time,
made the
America.
playoffs.
Give it
And he was
time.
like, "Well, y'all only in the play-in, and we
Give it
won the
time.
play-in, even though it was iffy in there for a little bit, because we was giving them some respect. It was iffy. It
Give
was
it time.
iffy, but I just think that the iron is hot. If LeBron wins a championship from the 7th seed, ladies and gentlemen, he will officially be the GOAT because no one's ever taken a 7th seed to the championship. No
Give
one.
it time. Give
No
it
one.
time. But
Heartbreak Lakers. That's what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to win the championship, and then Brandon will have to definitely wear that costume that I've been trying to get him to wear this whole time. It's going to be great. He might have to wear a LeBron costume. That's what we'll get him to wear. I think
wow.
he could
Okay.
cosplay as LeBron, and he'll
Okay.
have to wear a fistful of rings. There you go.
Okay. All right. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
there you go.
Fair enough.
There you go.
But we're gonna wrap it up there, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Before we do our final thoughts, Spillman, as always, I'm gonna punt it over to you. Can you tell folks where they can find you, sir?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you can find me on Truly Spill on Instagram. I post fun things. Hopefully, you'll see me posting my fit for the wedding I'm going to next week. Unfortunately, I won't be here next week, which will make me sad. And I know that you'll cry into your pillows and be very sad. And I apologize for leaving you guys because I know I've come into the podcast and brought levity and breath to it that you've never seen before. You're so happy to see me. Ray Williams is on there bigging us up because we talk about the Commandos. He's happy about it. We're changing the podcast for the better. We love these topics. I love the movies. It's great. I'm happy to be here, but you're going to have to wait 2 weeks to see me next. So I'll see you in 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen, and I love you.
All right, there you guys have it. Again, I'm your host, Brandon Choi, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thank you guys so much for watching. Actually, before I wrap up, you can find me on Twitter at Brandon Choi ENT and also Brandon Choi _ENT on Instagram. As I said, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there. And as always, see you soon. Peace.
Peace. Peace. 5 stars. 5 stars. All right.